Hello ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? This is Force with some more Elder Scrolls Online. In today's video, I'd like to have a discussion with you about the current state of the game, and primarily I'd like to know, are you going to pay to play ESO? So this isn't going to be a conversation about should this be a subscription or free-to-play game, when and if it'll go free-to-play, none of that. That's not what I want to focus on. I just want to focus on the current state of the game, what you have experienced, what you've seen, what you know so far, and with all of those things combined, given that we're just a couple of weeks away from launch, do you think you're going to pick it up, and do you think you'll play it either through early access, getting it a couple of days early by pre-ordering, or on day one? So let's just take a general recap. I'd like to sort of talk about some of the things that have been going on with this game and the current conversations that I've been seeing on, the ESO subreddit, on the gaming subreddit, on general internet forums and discussion boards, all those places. So yes, we are but a few weeks, literally just 2 weeks away from this game being playable. And we just had a beta weekend event. Now, during this beta weekend event, there seemed to be a lot of issues. The biggest of which, people were complaining about a plethora of bugs, just bugs everywhere. I saw quotes in the vicinity of like 50% of the quests that some people were trying to do could not be completed because of bugs. And I have to say that is a rather unfortunate situation. Personally, for me, playing on the PTS, which is a separate client, a separate server from the beta weekends, while I do experience bugs, they are certainly there. It was not nearly to the magnitude that was evidently there in this past beta weekend. And that is a big, big problem, because whatever experience that I have, you can take my word or you can not. That doesn't even matter. It's what experience you have and what experience the general population of people who played this weekend had that really matters, because those are the people, obviously at this point, if you're interested in the game, you will have tried to get into this beta weekend so long as your personal time permitted. And if you had a horrible experience there, it doesn't matter what my experience has been on the PTS, it matters what you saw. And the fact that it was so buggy and that there are so many complaints about that is a cause for major concern, because obviously, if I were in your shoes and I had that experience and we're 2 weeks away from launch and I'm hopping in this game, I'm interested in this game, I want to check it out, and I can't turn in half my quest? Screw this noise, this is garbage. No, I would not be interested at that point. I would not be interested at that point. And I could certainly understand people who take that stance. If you played it and it was just unplayable, the fact that we're so close to launch is a major cause for concern. So what I am hoping is that this was just an older build and that they were running into issues, but that when the game launches a couple weeks from now, there won't be that many bugs. But what I'm worried about is it's a case of the amount of people that were there. I am concerned that this is an issue that is only showing up, that I'm not experiencing in the PTS, but that's showing up in these huge beta test weekends because of the amount of people who are present. Because guess what? When this game launches, there will be a large amount of people present. And that means if that's the root of the problem that's causing these bugged quests, these problems with NPCs not phasing in, not responding properly when they're supposed to be, the boss fights not happening, NPCs not existing where you're trying to turn in your quest, items not existing, if the root cause of all of this is just the sheer amount of people, that means this game is going to be terribly buggy at launch. And I don't want that, because I don't want my experience to be horrible, but I also don't want it because that means that a lot of people who are going to pick up this game are going to be like, this is trash. What the hell? I can't even do anything. I can't even turn my quest. That is bad. That needs to be addressed. That needs to be fixed. There's no question about it. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's just say this. Bugs will be fixed. Bugs will eventually be ironed out. We expect, and it is very important that they are ironed out and not present at the launch of the game. But for argument's sake, let's say the game is going to launch, there will be bugs present. Hopefully it's not as many as this past beta weekend, but eventually that will all get sussed out. That will all get addressed once more. It'll get fixed. So once all the bugs are gone, how is this game? Now, you've had some time to play it in the beta weekends. Fantastic. Maybe if you're listening to this, you're also in the PTS and you've had some time to experience the end game. I want to know how you guys feel about the game at this point, with whatever experience you had, limited or extended, but I also want to give you my opinion. So, I see a lot of discussion about the early game, because most people can only see the early game in these beta weekends, and that's, at this point, with all the beta weekends we've had, most people have played characters in the vicinity of levels 1 to 30. What about me personally? Well, I personally have gotten to max level, which is 50, and I've done a few veteran ranks. There's a total of 10 veteran ranks. I've played through 2 of those veteran ranks, and I mean, that pretty much equated to an extra 30 or so more hours on top of hitting level 50. So with my one particular character, I've got a few of them, but with the character that was my main, it's a Nightblade, currently veteran rank 2. He's got 100 plus hours of playtime under his belt. That's a lot of time. Now, let's talk about, with all of that gameplay, how are my impressions of this game so far? I want to touch on the negatives first, because I think we just need to address these. Number 1, the game's difficulty. This is something that comes up time and time again. People watching my videos, commenting on the videos, and I've argued for it and I've defended against it. And I will continue to say that I understand their reasoning for developing it the way that they do, but at the same time, it is not hard. It is not hard. 100 plus hours with my Nightblade, veteran rank 2. Again, I am not at endgame. I haven't gone through all of the veteran ranks. Reportedly, once you get to around veteran rank 6, it really bumps up in difficulty, but that's like 150 hours in, okay? So let's not talk about that, because that's by that point, someone has already 100% committed to the game. The average person who might just be trying it out for their first free month after picking it up, they're probably not gonna, obviously some will. Yes, some will. Maybe a lot of people will, but there's gonna be probably a much greater portion of people who don't sink in that 150 hours in that first month and will never reach whatever veteran rank 6 where the single player experience actually gets difficult. The single player leveling portion of this game, the 100 plus hours that I've experienced, I've done very little group required content on this character. It's been a cakewalk. We're not going to sugarcoat it. It has been very, very easy. Now, like I just mentioned, I understand why. I understand why this happens. First and foremost, people who develop MMOs, they understand that lots of people want to do a single experience with a splattering of group content. And that is especially the case with an Elder Scrolls MMO. I totally get it. Lots of people coming in this game are gonna want primarily single player content. The leveling experience is primarily single player focused. You are not required to group up. There are options to group up. There are, the outdoor boss fights. There are the instance dungeons. There are the Daedric portals, those summoning rifts that come down, the Dark Anchors. Those things, some require groups, some don't, depending on your skill level, depending on your build and whatnot. But especially the group dungeons, those you don't even need to do those. You can quite easily, and I almost 100% got to veteran rank 2, 100 plus hours of gameplay, doing it solo. I was never really challenged. I mean, again, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to lie. It's the way that it is. Once more, I understand why. A lot of people are going to want to play the single player. They don't want to completely turn those people off by making it unplayable when you're trying to level up. But yes, it is not very challenging. Yes, I think that there could be room for increased difficulty without making it impossible. It's not one extreme or the other. There's always an in-between. This is the case with anything in life. It's not black and white. We're always looking at shades of gray, and that could be the case here. I think that they could bump up the difficulty in the leveling experience because right now, if you've got a build that's focused on dealing damage, you are going to just completely face roll. Next in the negative column, we have got the combat. It's not perfect. It is not 100% responsive. It is not 100% smooth. My character doesn't always do what I expect it to do based on the inputs that I'm putting in on the keyboard and using my mouse. It's not 100% tight and polished and responsive. That is something that we could see room for improvement, and I hope that they do continue to try to hone that in and just make it better. It's something that they have improved over time. They've been making efforts and steps in the right direction, and that has been improving. The addition of collision detection and screen shaking has added to a weightiness behind the combat, which is great, but the responsiveness is something that I still think could be tuned up a bit. Just so you want your character to do what you think it's doing based on the inputs that you're putting in on the keyboard, and sometimes it's not responsive. I'll click an attack, the attack won't happen. That's very frustrating. That is very, very frustrating. We want polish, we want tuned gameplay, and that's something that, again, I think that they can certainly improve upon. One other big thing that you're always going to see come up is this exploration-based? Really? Like, is this a non-linear experience? The answer to that question, truthfully, it's no. We've got zones. The zones have a level range, and it is quite guided through the questing experience. Now, you can go out and you can just walk into a dungeon at any given point, and that's often how I play. But when you do that, and if you, it almost punishes you, because you will outlevel quest, and then if you go back to an area and you're trying to do a quest, if you've done any semblance of exploration, if you spent some time in Cyrodiil and you've leveled up a little bit there, you are all of a sudden going to outlevel the quest in your zone. And it's even happened to me where I've outleveled main quest line quests. And so what that means is if I wanted to continue the main quest line, I would have to do this quest, which literally gave me no reward, with the exception of if I get an item at the end. I would be gaining no XP in that entire process because I accidentally outleveled it by doing what I wanted to do, which was exploring. So if you wanted to play this game and you wanted to get the most out of it, you're going to want to play it in a linear fashion. This is like a theme park based quest hub to quest hub to quest hub. Now they dress it up a little bit differently, and there is certainly, again, the avenue for exploration, but like I said, you also then run the risk of out-leveling these quests because this is a leveled experience. Each zone is broken up into level ranges. The beginning part of the zone is for the lower level. The later part of the zone is for the higher level experiences with a higher level quest and the higher level NPCs, and that's just how it is. It's just how it is. They have decided to go with what is known as a vertical progression as opposed to a horizontal progression. Horizontal progression means there's not that much of a difference between a low-level character and a high-level character. Vertical progression, you're going up in levels, you're getting significantly more powerful, the gear makes you much more powerful, and that's what they've decided to go with. That's just what they chose, you know, and some people aren't going to be happy about that either. I'm okay with that. But again, coming from people who play just the single-player ESO games, I guess you can make the argument for like Morrowind, where, you know, you could certainly you cannot necessarily go everywhere because you would get your ass kicked. It is to a much, much greater extent in this particular game. Because maybe you'll have a fighting chance in the Elder Scrolls games if you go somewhere you're not supposed to go. In this game, if you're level 5 and you go to a level 50 zone, you literally stand a 0% chance. 0% chance of doing anything but dying. Whew, alright, so we've addressed the bugs, we have addressed the combat responsiveness and the combat difficulty, and we've addressed the linearity of this game, the theme park MMO portion of it. All of that out of the side, that's a lot of negative. I am still absolutely in love with this game. I still think it is fantastic. And no, I wasn't bought off, and no, I'm not just being a corporate shill or internet. No, not at all. This has been a great gaming experience for me, and this has given me a sense of satisfaction that I really haven't gotten from MMOs in quite some time. And I've dabbled in various MMOs. I spent, anyone who follows this channel probably knows, I spent a ton of time with the World of Warcraft. Prior to that, I played games like Asheron's Call, spent a ever so brief amount of time with EverQuest, and I've just been a gamer, you know, my entire life. I've been playing a multitude of games. And then since World of Warcraft, I've spent a fair amount of time with titles like Guild Wars 2, and I've dabbled in other ones. I actually spent quite a significant amount of time with Star Wars: The Old Republic. So I've been around. I'm not like someone who's spent years worth of playtime in multiple MMOs, but I've played a fair amount and I've tried a fair amount. And this is something new. It's something fresh. The combat could use improving. The game needs to be ironed out in terms of its bugs. And some people would like to see it more open world and less linear. But with all of that aside, they have created a very interesting and captivating world. And if you approach this game the right way, if you approach this game interested in story and wanting to find out what's going on with the different characters and stuff like that, there is so much to be had here. There is so much to be had. Hundreds and hundreds of NPCs to talk to, hundreds and hundreds of hours, I'm just guessing there, but a multitude of conversation dialogue to listen to and to experience this story. And the books! There are books everywhere. I mean, there is portions of the Elder Scrolls universe that you can just dive into full bore and just have so much content that your brain will explode. And that's the other thing, the content. With the way that they've laid this game out, some people look at it and say that it's a grind. I look at it and say this is the perfect response to what everyone bitches about the most when an MMO launches, and that is lack of content. You get from level 1 to 50. If you're really quick, you can do that in maybe about 50 hours. If you take your time and really soak things in and savor the world, you're probably going to be looking more in the vicinity to 70 to 100 hours. That's just level 50. You hit level 50, you then get to go through both other Alliance's zones. Now again, some people see that and say, oh, they're just adding a grind to the end of it. Once more, I see that and say, this is exactly what they need to do to respond to the complaints that there's nothing to do once I hit the max level, there's nothing to do. I hit the max level, there's nothing to do. Guess what? Now you hit the max level, depending on your speed, you've got anywhere in the vicinity of another 100 to 200 hours worth of content as you go from veteran rank 1 to veteran rank 10. Beyond that, we've got the PvP. The PvP is fantastic. I haven't covered it much here in this channel. I realize that it's because I'm waiting to really dive into the big group PvP. I'm pretty much waiting until launch, to be honest with you, because on the PTS, there's so few people playing. It's just not interesting to show, and it's not very representative of what the final endgame product will be like once this game launches. But you know, you've experienced it. Those of you who have played the beta weekends have probably dove into Cyrodiil and experienced it. And the people who I've heard and I've listened to talk about it have had nothing but positive things to say, and I'm the same way. From the amount of time that I have spent with it, I really enjoyed it, and I think there's a big draw to that. Beyond that, you know, we've got regular old group dungeons, you've got trash mobs, you've got boss fights, all that stuff is present, and then we've got the adventure zones. We don't know anything about that. It could be terrible. We don't know. I can't say one way or the other. It could be amazing, it could be terrible. We don't know a lot about adventure zones at the moment. Supposedly, this is supposed to be like the real end game group content, besides the small group dungeons, the veteran rank dungeons. This is supposed to be the big group end game PvE content. The fact that we're only 2 weeks away from launch and we haven't heard about it, that is a cause for concern, obviously. But again, with the negatives aside, with the discussion of the combat could be using tuning up, with the discussion of the general ease of the leveling experience, besides all of that, just the sheer amount of content that is here, the sheer amount of story and exploration that can be done, although it is fairly linear, it's still exploring. There's still exploring to be had, especially the dungeon diving. I absolutely adore the dungeon diving in this game. I think it is so fun to find that dungeon icon and just go in there and see what's in there. Sometimes there's a quest, sometimes it's just NPCs to kill. There's always a boss. A lot of times there's a sky shard. It's always rewarding and enjoyable to experience that. And again, I think just the world. The world itself is very enjoyable to walk through, to just be present in. And that's something that I've played a lot of different MMOs with a lot of different settings and environments, but this is one that's really drawn me in. It really feels Elder Scrollsy in terms of the visuals, the vibe, the character design, again, the dungeons, all that stuff. There's just a lot that I really like about it. And you can take from that whatever you will. You can think whatever you want. You can think that ZeniMax or Bethesda or whoever is like paying me off to say these things. That is not the case. I just really enjoy this. That's all there is to say about it. And I'm going to try WildStar, and hopefully I really enjoy that. But I've played WildStar briefly, and I left that game with not nearly as much of a desire to come back as I did every single time I hop into ESO. I'm always wanting to come back. I'm always wanting to continue to explore, to continue to progress the story, to continue to see the new areas, the new dungeons, to hop into a Cyrodiil PvP campaign. There's a lot that I love about it, even though it's not perfect. And at the end of the day, that's the bottom line. The game's not perfect, but I think there's a lot to love if you're interested in the positives that this game brings to the table, brings to the genre. Has it completely revolutionized MMOs? Is it changing the landscape forever? No. But it's doing a lot right, and it's doing a lot that I enjoy. So, myself, yes, I am going to pay to play The Elder Scrolls Online. How long will I do that? That's yet to be determined, but I'm almost 200 hours in, and I still want more. I think that says a lot, at least for me personally. Whatever you take away from that, so be it. All right, guys, that is gonna do it, guys. that's gonna do it. Thanks so much for watching, and yeah, please be sure to let me know what you think in the comment section below. And as always, keep watching and keep owning.
Walking Sadir, who has made me fall from my high place.